Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode. And this episode is a special one because on my left corner, I got some pasta. And on my right corner, I got some sushi. So, these two motorcycles are motorcycles that sometimes people have a hard time deciding which one to get. Unfortunately, the Yamaha R6 is discontinued, but so is the Ducati 959 in my left corner, replaced with the Ducati V2. So, here are some of the differences between the Ducati 959 and my Yamaha R6. As you already know, I've owned the Ducati 959, so I have extensive experience with it. So this video is not really a review video, it's more of a comparison. What are the differences between a Japanese R6 and an Italian 959? So on my left corner, the Italian 959 has 150 to 155 horsepower, but this motorcycle also weighs more than this one because the R6, which we'll get to in a second, weighs 419 pounds wet. Meanwhile, the 959 weighs about 430-ish. So the R6 definitely has a weight advantage. Other things that are different about the 959 is that you're going to get a tricked out TFT screen. Well, by tricked out, I mean for the era where this 959 originated from. We're talking a TFT screen that was way ahead of its time when the bike was first introduced many years ago. But it's got different levels of engine braking, it's got different levels of traction control, as well as ABS. So for the most part, you're getting a premium motorcycle. It is an Italian motorcycle, and you're going to pay a lot more for it. As far as the R6 is concerned, obviously it's my bike. You've seen my videos on it. You've seen me take it to the track. It's a phenomenal motorcycle, and it does not weigh as much as it used to when I first bought it. At the current moment, it weighs 395 pounds, and the horsepower figures are about 112 to 114 at the wheel. If you've seen my track video on the straights, it's as fast as a V2 and a Gixxer 750. I'm very curious to find out what these motorcycles are like now that I own this one and I used to have that one. So with that said, let's take them on the road.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Time for us to take the pasta rocket and see what she's got. Man, I haven't put a leg over a Ducati in such a long time. I forgot what it's like. Woo! Man, talk about nostalgia. Let's see if I even remember how to turn this baby on. Oh man, feeling out the clutch and the brakes. Well, the levers have been changed out, but this motorcycle is not GP shift like my R6, so it'll take quite a lot of getting used to. But I gotta tell you though, that Ducati rumble, oh, it's something I miss. This thing has got so much torque that at idle it'll do 10 miles an hour. I'm not even kidding you. All the little nuances of Ducati 959 ownership is starting to come back to me now. At idle, you get this rumbling and this vibration that you typically don't get with other motorcycles. I think it's a Ducati characteristics. Alright, on the road. So this motorcycle does not have quick down, it just has quick up, from what I remember. Oh yeah! I almost forgot how much the mirrors on this thing vibrate. Wow. There's a lot of vibration under the bike, but these are all things that are almost new to me again. I haven't experienced riding a Ducati in such a long time. I almost forgot what it was like. But it's a very vibrating bike, if that's even a word. As you may remember, I used to have a Ducati 959 Corsa. And one of the reasons why I sold that bike was because the suspension on that thing was so hard. Wow. But this one seems to fare a little bit better. I like it. The Corsa suspension is always going to be more hard because of the Öhlins. It's meant more for racing. I think this model is meant more for street use than for racing. You want to hear something funny? I'm not really riding the bike that fast, but I can tell you that the power differences between my R6 and the 959 are not that much different. But let's see, maybe we can push it a little bit once we continue on. But at the current moment, that's where it stands. Now, as far as aggressiveness is concerned between the R6 and the Panigale, I can definitely tell you that the Panigale is going to be a bit more aggressive. The foot pegs are higher than the R6 is for some reason, even though they're both race bikes. And I could feel a rush of wind going in between my boots. And whenever I was riding the R6, I wasn't experiencing that. So this tells me two things. It's positioned in a way where it's more for track use than it is for street use. And it's meant more for like hanging your body out, leaning as aggressively as you can into the corners. That's what this bike is mostly for. Yep, I just gave it the full beans, but I'm telling you, it feels just like my R6. Not that much of a difference. But here's the caveat though. This motorcycle, as I mentioned already, weighs 430 pounds, but it's got 150 horsepower to the crank. And I think it's somewhere around 130 to the wheel. But my R6, on the other hand, weighs 395 pounds wet, and it has 114 to the wheel. So there's a 15 horsepower disparity between the two, but there's also a 25-pound increase on this one versus my R6. I'd have to ride both of them on a long racetrack to figure out which one is faster, but at the current moment, I really can't tell the difference. So as I mentioned before, there's a lot of vibration under the seat, and the whole bike pretty much vibrates. So that's one of the major differences between the R6 and the Panigale. The R6 is a lot more smoother than this. The throttle response is smoother, the acceleration is smoother. This has more of a rougher feel, I believe. As far as the aggressiveness of the clip-ons, I would say they're pretty much similar. The 959 as well as the R6, they're pretty aggressive. But I would say that the 959 is probably about 15 to 20% more aggressive than the R6. I feel myself hunched over more on this than I am on the R6. Damn! I forgot how much fun a 959 was. I think it's the sound of this engine, man. Damn, it's ridiculous. It sounds so aggressive and so mean. That's what I love about Italian motorcycles, man. It's got so much machismo. That V-twin engine, man, it's ridiculous. I forgot what a 959 was like. It's good to be back. But I gotta tell you though, I am starting to come to the realization of why I got rid of it in the first place. The 959, first and foremost, is a race bike, but so is the R6. But the 959 is just a really rough ride on normal streets like this. My R6, in comparison, is about 30 to 40% softer on normal roads like this. And when you couple that with the smooth acceleration and the smooth ride without all of the vibration, it's a motorcycle that you can ride for long distances without getting as tired as you would with something like this. The quick up on this motorcycle is absolutely butter though. And I'm starting to realize that the 959 is getting a pretty bit warm underneath my seat, and that's one of the trademarks of Ducati ownership, is the heat. Now mind you, the temperature right now outside is about 57 or 58 degrees, and I feel a lot of heat coming from underneath the seat. I remember riding this bike in the summertime when it was 75, 80 degrees. Yep, it was pretty hot. So that's one of the hallmarks of riding a Ducati and Ducati ownership, is that you just have to get used to having the heat underneath you, because it does get hot. What completely different motorcycles, man. The R6 versus the Ducati 959. You got sushi versus a linguine platter. They ride very differently. They both sound different. Wow. Overall wind protection for the 959 is pretty good. And I think it might even be better than my R6. After this, we're going to try out the R6 and see what the differences are. After all, it's a race bike. It's meant for you tucking in. There you go. Now I'm tucked in. Barely can see out of my helmet, but I'm tucked in. Overall, I gotta tell you, man, this bike is just damn sexy. Everything about it is just screaming Italian. I really missed riding this bike, to be honest with you. I really missed being behind a Ducati. It's been a while. It's really been a while, actually. Oh yeah, now I'm feeling a considerable amount of heat underneath my booty. I think my thighs, I would say they're medium rare right now. All right, I gotta give this bad boy back. But I get to take out my R6 now. Very curious to find out what that ride's like in comparison to this now. Now, it's funny I say that because I own the bike and I just rode it here a few minutes ago before this one. But when you're riding motorcycles back to back, it kind of makes you forget. That's my excuse, I guess. There we are. Prestige Motorcycles. Highly like this bike. I think this bike is in great condition. Oh, and check this out. He's got a brand new... What year is that? He's got a 2017 R6 in stock, and you guys know that R6s are discontinued and no longer sold. So if you guys are looking for a used R6, there you go.
2 hours later.
Alright guys, now it is time for us to take my R6 out, aka the sushi rocket. Let's see what this baby's like. Well, unlike the Ducati, I can tell you this is a lot smoother. There's no vibration. I can see through the mirrors. The mirrors don't vibrate, which is good. Wow, the throttle response is so much different. I think this might even have a better throttle response than the Ducati. That's crazy. Oh yeah. The differences are so vast. The R6 is just a smoother motorcycle to ride. There's no vibration. Now, let's talk about a couple of different things here. First things first, the aggressiveness. I think both the 959 and the R6 are very aggressive motorcycles that are just not meant to be ridden for the street. You're not going to be very comfortable riding either bikes for a very long time, but if I had to choose one, it would definitely be the R6, because right away I can see that the suspension is a lot smoother and takes the bumps with ease. Wow, this thing pulls hard. God, it pulls so hard. No wonder I didn't feel that much of a difference between my R6 and the 959. I think between the weight loss and the exhaust and all the changes that I made to it, plus that ECU thing, it made it just as fast as a 959. Who would have thunk it? That 150 horsepower motorcycle and my R6 would feel exactly the same. But here's the difference though. The difference is that this motorcycle revs up all the way to 16,000 RPM. I think I like 16,000 RPM better than 11,000 RPM. So that takes care of the power. Man, I don't feel too bad about having a 600 class motorcycle anymore. It's just as fast as a goddamn 959. So there you go, guys. Don't feel too bad, you got a 600. Just make a couple of changes and bam! You got a bike that revs up to 16,000 RPM and costs a whole lot less. Well, if you can find it these days. Between the two motorcycles, comfort-wise, the seats are really not that much of a difference. The R6 seat is going to be a bit more wider, so it's got more support. But on both motorcycles, you're literally hunched over, so take the comfort equation out of it. The only thing is that the R6 is going to have better suspension. And by better, I mean a plusher suspension. So if you're looking for comfort, this would be your motorcycle. Now, as you already know, this motorcycle doesn't come with a quick shifter. I've added a quick shifter. You can check out my quick shifter video. It's a quick up and down, and I've made this motorcycle into a true race bike by giving it a GP shift. So it's way different than the stock configuration, but I experienced smoother upshifts on the Ducati 959. The upshifts on this are extremely smooth, but I think the 959 kicks it up a notch just a little bit. But I think that's also because it comes from the factory with a quick shifter that was designed for that bike, while mine is an aftermarket one. Another major difference between the two motorcycles is that the seat height on this is a 33.7 inch seat, and on that it's a 32.7 inch seat. So if you're not too comfortable with riding a very tall motorcycle, then that would be the bike for you. The other thing is that the R6 feels like a much wider and bigger bike when you're actually sitting on it. The 959 is just a very, very slim motorcycle, way slimmer than this, but surprisingly this weighs less than that. So I don't know, well, at least mine does, because I've done a lot of weight reduction on my bike. Let's see, I've taken off the exhaust, I've reduced down the tail tidy that almost took off like 2 pounds, the X-up sensor, the CO2 sensor, pretty much all that stuff. The last time I weighed it, oh, and I also added a lithium-ion battery pack and I think a whole bunch of other stuff, I don't remember. But the motorcycle currently weighs 395 pounds. But they are such different motorcycles, man. The sound of this thing at high RPM sounds like an F1 car. You've seen my track day video, so let me know if down in the comment section if you agree or disagree to that. And I completely forgot to mention, even though this has a 4-cylinder engine compared to the V2 of the 959, there's absolutely no heat coming from the engine, so it's comfortable in that aspect as well. Well, there you have it, guys. The comparison of the Yamaha R6 versus the 959. Something that I was looking forward to doing for you guys for a long time, actually. And I'm pretty happy that Nils over at Prestige Motorcycles allowed me to do that for you guys. They're very different motorcycles, as I've already mentioned, and if I had the room and the money, I would probably have both of them. But I absolutely love my R6, as you guys already know. I've had two 959s. I have had a regular 959, which was my red one, and then the last 959 I had was the Corsa model, which I sold. But I'm in love with my R6. I've taken it to the track so many times already, and so this is a keeper for me at the current moment. But I'm not saying anything bad about the 959. It's just these are what the differences are. So now it's your turn. Comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are between the R6 and the 959. As you heard my thoughts, the power doesn't seem that much different. They both seem to have similar amount of power, and I couldn't really tell the difference. But now it's up to you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comment section if you guys want me to review any other bikes for you, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Ciao for now.